As we look forward to the Senate to approve the second stimulus checks, I want us to take a look at one of the key provisions of the CARES Act, which was the first stimulus checks. This was the PPP program, the Payroll Protection Program, designed to help small businesses. Under the CARES Act, about $659 billion was allocated to help small businesses survive during the COVID-19 pandemic. As of today, about 100,000 small businesses have permanently shut their doors. According to bankruptcydata.com, about 4,000 small businesses have already filed for bankruptcy. Most businesses affected are in the retail industry, hospitality industry, restaurant industry. Only 4.2 million of the 30 million small businesses have actually had help from the PPP program. Most people have argued the PPP program was designed for thriving businesses and not for struggling businesses. Why has this been so? What has been responsible for the failure of the PPP program to help small businesses stay afloat? Before we get into that, please, if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. C2C Mentors is a real estate mentorship community, and your family's finances is at the foundation. Here are some of the arguments put forward by those who argue that the PPP program was designed to save thriving businesses and not small businesses. Most small businesses are the livelihood in most small towns and communities, and most of them do not operate on a W-2 basis. Most of them operate on a 1099 basis. The PPP program loan is 100% forgivable if you could use 75%. Initially, they later changed it to 60% or for payroll purposes. But most small businesses in these small cities, their biggest expense is not their payroll. Their biggest expense is their rent and their inventory. Another provision of the PPP package was the fact that it was designed for companies with 500 employees and below. But there was a great loophole there because you had large corporations with so many different locations. For example, Shake Shack has about 8,000 employees and about 189 different locations in the United States. But each location is just about 50 people. Shake Shack got a 10 million loan for the PPP. Thank God they were able to give it back after public outcry. Some people have argued, why not design it in a way that will protect businesses with 20 employees and below? A bulk of the US small businesses actually fall within that category if you want to save small businesses. The Los Angeles Lakers, with a net worth of about $3.7 billion, they got 4.6 million of the PPP program, while small mom and pop shops have been left to shut their doors. The PPP program was administered by the Small Business Administration together with certain banks. And the banks reaped about $10 billion in fees alone. So these are the banks getting fat while the small businesses in the local communities are suffering and are forced to shut their doors. This is how the PPP program has not been able to survive the economy. Most banks participating in the PPP program, they were only giving the loans to their existing customers to speed up the approval process so they can get access to that cash. A lot of the money also was given to companies with a huge payroll. For example, of the 1.4 million loans that were given out so far, The average loan that was given out was $254,000. But you had so many small businesses, the communities who had filed, who had requested for 50,000, they requested for 100,000, 75,000, 60,000. So most of them have been shut out. The banks preferred to lend to the big questions than to the very small mom and pop shops. Some politicians, directly or indirectly, benefited from this program. According to an article by Politico on June 16, it says some 4 GOP members had received loans under the PPP program. So the question is, should politicians benefit from this program when the local small mom and pop shops are suffering? Initially, there had been a legislation which requiring lending transparency. It had required the SBA and the Treasury Secretary to actually make public the list of all corporate companies who have actually benefited from the PPP program. The Trump administration and the Treasury Department, they had said no, they will not make this information public because it will go against privacy policies for these companies. I guess after pressure from the Democrats and the pressure from Politico to release this information from the Freedom of Information Act, finally on June 19, Steve Mnuchin, who is the Treasury Secretary, finally made a statement. They were going to release information for the companies who have benefited from the PPP program. One of the wealthiest members in Congress, Roger Williams, with a net worth of about $27 million, received a PPP loan for an undisclosed amount for his Roger Williams Chrysler Jeep dealership in Texas, employing his wife as one of the top senior executives. Is it okay for millionaires taking taxpayers' money in the middle of the biggest unemployment since the Great Depression? The new disclosure from the Treasury Secretary will include information on the name of the business, the amount they got from the PPP loan, the demographics, and the industry. I think this will kind of help give us a much better perspective on why the PPP program has not been able to save small businesses up to this date. Politicians getting money that was designed for the poor. Please let me know in the comments what you think about that. This disclosure will reveal companies who got from 150,000 up to 10 million, which was the maximum. On April 22nd, the Center for Responsible Lending, a nonprofit group that combats abusive lending practices, stated about 90% of businesses owned by people of color and women have been or will likely be shut out of the PPP program. Let's wait if this is true based on the information to be released by the Treasury Secretary, which will actually show us the demographics and everything. The Department of Justice announced small businesses filed multiple lawsuits and class actions against banks like the US Bank, JP Morgan, and other banks who were administering the PPP program. Most of the lawsuits questioned the manner in which these banks actually administered the PPP program. Lawsuits have also been filed about the receipt of PPP loans by over 400 public traded companies, while small mom and pop shops in small communities have been left on their own to shut their doors and file for bankruptcy. Well, the PPP program was designed to save these small businesses in these small communities. We have to be careful how we move into the next stimulus checks. If the Senate were to approve the next stimulus checks today, what will be the lessons that we have learned with the PPP program? Are we going to continue in the same trend that is excluding small and minority and women-owned businesses? Or are we going to look into it and make sure that the program is actually benefiting these small businesses to help mom and pop shops to stay afloat? Are we getting a second stimulus check? On June 22nd, on an interview with President Trump, he said, we will be getting a second stimulus check. The White House has been saying for a long time there will be a second stimulus check. The President has been saying for a long time there will be a second stimulus check. The Senate has been saying there will be a second stimulus check, but no time frame as of today. It's been 6 weeks since the HEROES Act was passed at the House of Representatives, sent to the Senate for approval, and is gone dead and silent. On June 19th, President Trump said in an interview, we will get this done in the near future. And when he was asked about the amount of the stimulus check, he said, it will be a very generous one. Very soon, the Senate will be going for the July 4th recess, and we are only expecting them to come back maybe the second week or the third week. We expect to hear any more discussions about the stimulus checks. But as of now, we have no idea about it. We know there's going to be a stimulus check, but we have no idea about any time frame and no idea how much that's going to be. Thank you if you've already subscribed to our channel. C2C Mentors is a real estate mentorship community, and your family's finances is at the foundation. Thank you, and see you on the next video.